Hello and Merry Christmas, everyone. This is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. And today on my mobile Murtathon, I'm going to discuss a few rather interesting events that occurred over the last day or two on the wonderful and wild, wacky world of Timothy Charles Holmseth and Company. Now, the first thing that had happened was that the troll, Free Field 1, had declared that I had a romantic interest in Sarah Westall, the famous internet media pundit who came to Timothy Charles Holmseth's support a while back. Recently, there was a webcast where Miss Westall, or Mrs., I don't know her marital status, came to question the direction that Tim Holmseth is taking in regards to his tall tales that he's been telling on his blog, his Facebook site, and with his friend, Randy Q. Erickson. Now, for some strange reason, after making this romantic rumor on the internet about me and Miss Westall, the troll vanished, went dark, which is not unusual. It's a pattern. I suppose that the troll will be back and may change its header and come up with some other stuff. Maybe send me bikini clad girls twerking at the beach, Nancy Grace dancing in a wrestling ring, or some other interesting thing to occupy her time, since that seems to be the only thing that this troll is capable of doing. You know, along with trying to get me to repeat and see the ways of God or something, when I think it's Tim Holmseth is an entire bunch that really need to start reading the Bible and actually following its teachings. But we haven't heard from Miss Westall, who's probably busy living her own life and may not be aware of it yet. Or if she is aware of it, she probably decided to ignore it. It's a wise choice under ordinary circumstances, but it may not work. See, Miss Westall may wind up learning a hard lesson, and that is, if you get involved with Tim Holmseth and you decide to change your mind, your world is going to come crashing down around you, because Tim Holmseth doesn't like rejection. Tim Holmseth doesn't like criticizing and criminal. Tim Holmseth thinks that anybody that leaves his sphere of influence and either ignores him or turns against him is the worst of the worst, and eventually will be labeled a pedophile, Luciferin, or some evil entity that Tim Holmseth feels should be shunned by the world. So if I were Sarah Westall, I would get prepared for the worst. Maybe she'll escape Tim's wrath, but I doubt it. I feel at some point Miss Westall is going to find that she never should have gotten involved with Tim Holmseth in the first place. And when that day comes, I will be there telling Miss Westall, I told you so. And now we come to a rather intriguing subject. I seem to be having problems with my pronunciation today. Probably because I'm not getting enough sleep. But I just found out we have a world postmaster. I'm sure the people in the world weren't aware of this, but we have a world postmaster. Now, according to Tim Holmseth's article on Christmas Eve, some guy marched into the Polk County, Wisconsin, or Pierce County. I give me all kinds of counties here. They all seem to be starting with P. Maybe people had to pee when they named these counties. I don't know. Someone walked in to the Pierce County, Wisconsin Sheriff's Office and gave them a letter from the Postmaster of the World declaring that Phil McConnell should be a free man. Ordered him. Let the guy out. Now, I don't know what the sheriff's reaction to this. I did not reach her for comment. But it seems that this Postmaster of the World is supposed to have the authority to get Phil McConnell out of jail. The only problem is Phil McConnell is still in jail. The sheriff of Pierce County, Wisconsin, decided not to pay attention to the Postmaster of the World. Now, I've been told that the Postmaster of the World is also responsible for rewriting the Constitution into quantum Constitution or something. You know, I know quantum physics, and I can't figure that one out. You know, what quantum physics has to do with a constitution is something I've never contemplated. But it is a strange discipline. There's a lot about quantum physics that will basically leave people behind because it's hard to understand quantum physics. You kind of have to have the ability to think in order to comprehend it. And it certainly is not going to be in the minds of the world of Timothy Charles Holmseth and Phil McConnell. So someday we're going to have a quantum constitution. That ought to be interesting. But just another fun thing in the wild and wacky world of Timothy Charles Holmseth. Alright. Moving forward. Now, Phil McConnell came out and declared victory. Well, this little court proceeding happened yesterday, and the only victory about it was that he was given 6 months to get himself out of the mess he got himself into. Now, what does Phil McConnell have to do to save his house? He has to pay the mortgage completely within 6 months. He has to pay all his back property taxes, which goes back to 2016, and by the time the end of the period comes about, he will have had to pay the 2020 property taxes as well. I don't know when they become due in Wisconsin. Here in Florida, your property taxes are due fairly early in the year. You have until March to pay them. You can pay them early and get a discount, or you can pay them in March and there's a little penalty. In most cases, the property taxes are included in the mortgage, and so you don't see them. There's an account set up solely for property taxes. It's taken out of your mortgage payment, and then the institution pays your taxes for you. That way, the bank is assured it's not going to get itself in the mess that it's into right now. You know, somehow Phil McConnell hasn't been paying the property taxes on a house that he took out a mortgage on. Now, if you look at the court record, you're going to see that Phil McConnell owes quite a bit of money for both the taxes and the mortgage. And the question comes about, Phil McConnell has this great reprieve, if you want to call it that. It's actually quite routine when it comes to mortgages. You know, there's a 3 to 6 month period you have to try and save your house. Otherwise, off to the auction we go. So the house is going to remain in the state that it's in for the next 6 months, provided Phil McConnell is able to do what he's supposed to do. And that is, he has to immediately pay the property taxes on the house. He immediately has to show that he has homeowner's insurance. Now, logic would dictate that if Phil McConnell hasn't been paying his taxes and Phil McConnell hasn't been paying his mortgage, that Phil McConnell has not paid for his property insurance. Now, property insurance isn't cheap. I had property insurance on my house. And along with a high deductible, it's not cheap. So Phil McConnell's got a problem. He's got to come up with a considerable amount of money in a short period of time. Which means those people out there that believe in Phil McConnell had better get their checkbooks out, because it's going to be you that's going to save his ass. You know, we're looking at around $50,000 just in taxes, insurance, and everything else before we even talk about the Internal Revenue Service. They've got a lien on a house. And not only that, I don't know how long it's been that Phil McConnell has not been paying on his mortgage. We could be talking a considerable amount of money here. You know, if Phil McConnell 100% financed the house with maybe a 10%, 20% down payment, he doesn't have that much equity in the house. He's only financed the house for 10 years or less. I don't know when he purchased the house. It's been reported that he paid $275,000 for the house. Now, the average mortgage payment on a house is at a minimum $15 per $1,000. So that could add up to a pretty good chunk of money. Looking at a mortgage that's well over $1,000 a month, pretty close to $2,000 a month. That's $12,000 a year. If he hasn't been paying on that mortgage since 2016, you're looking at $50,000 just in the mortgage, let alone in the 20-some thousand dollars he owes in property taxes, and the fact he's going to have to tack on another $400 or $600 a month for homeowner's insurance. And who's paying the light bill? Who's paying the power bill? Who's paying the water bill? He's out in the country, so maybe he's got a well. So, he can get away with not having to pay for water. But you got to run the pump unless somebody's going to go out in 20-degree weather and start pumping away at the old water pump like they did in the pioneer days. You got to have electricity. And you got to have electricity or natural gas for the water heater so you can take hot showers. You got to have some means of cooking. Or if you don't cook, you got to have some way of firing up the old microwave. And if that doesn't work, you've got to have the electricity to power the telephone so you can call the pizza delivery guy. Now, Tim Holmseth is an experienced pizza delivery driver, so maybe he can run down, get the pizza, and bring it back, because he knows how to deliver pizza. That's about the only thing he knows how to do is deliver pizza. And he's not even doing that anymore. Or there's someone else that could deliver Holmseth's pizza. And that's Mrs. Holmseth. Now, rumor came about that some hot chick married Timothy Charles Holmseth. Now, this is kind of an interesting secret marriage since nobody heard about it until this broad decided to broadcast it. Pictures of a rather attractive, demure young lady showed up and said, between me and Timmy, we're going to have a bunch of stallions. So does that mean that Timothy's going to have a horse he can ride or something? Or, what's the deal with all these stallions running around? Does that mean that Timothy Holmseth's new bride is a horse's ass? I don't know, but, an interesting thing happened. Somebody did a little investigating. And it turns out that Timothy Charles Holmseth might be the victim of a romance scam. Now, you remember that monologue I did getting into romance scams and how somebody would send a picture of a very attractive girl, and the very attractive girl would turn out to be a dude. Well, in this case, it did turn out to be a member of the female gender. It's a woman. A little bit older. And not quite so attractive. But at least it was a woman. Now, I think she might be a little old, so I don't think there's going to be any of these stallions running around. And, I think the biological clock has kind of had its battery run dead on this one. But, you never know in this world. You see in the weekly world news, 80-year-old women having babies, so, anything's possible. And they can always adopt. There's all those Russian babies out there that need parents. And since Timothy Charles Holmseth knows so much about adoption scams, maybe he can use that technique to rescue a child that otherwise would have gone into one of these ritual sacrifice groups or something. At least Timothy Charles Holmseth could rescue something, even if it's an imaginary child. So we'll see how that goes. This is William K. Murtaugh, Mark Witness 1. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year's, Happy Holidays, and have a good one.